Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Salko and this is the second part of the Raspberry Pi Perfect Tiny Home server. As promised, I will continue with this tutorial, and today we are going to be installing the mail server part. So Postfix, Dovecot, Roundcube and SpamAssassin. Okay, so first things first, let's install Postfix. apt-get install Postfix in your terminal, press enter and wait for the installation to finish. When you get to this part, the Postfix configuration window will ask you what type of mail configuration do you want. Select the internet site. In the second window, you're going to be asked for the system mail name, so the domain name. If you have a fully qualified domain name and if you plan to use this server as a public email server, then type your domain name here as I have and press enter. And now Postfix will download and install. For those of you that are doing this for the first time, Postfix is an email server. Postfix is a mail transfer agent, also known as mail server. It takes care of sending and receiving emails from and to the server. It is a very popular mail server, which I have been using for probably the past 10 years or even longer. And yeah, I prefer it over SendMail or Xim, so that's why we are using it also here on this little Raspberry Pi. So after Postfix installs, which it has just done, which it has been just completed. Oh, sorry for my English. So Postfix has been installed, and now we are going to check the configuration files. So we check those inside the etc folder, etc postfix. So let's navigate there. And as you can see, we have main.cf and master.cf files. Those are the two most important files for us at the moment. So let's make backups in case we screw something up. So cp main.cf, main.cf.BAK, cp master.cf to master.cf.BAK. So now that we have backups, we can go ahead and start changing things. The first thing that we're going to change will be inside main.cf. So let's open it with our favorite text editor. I'm going to be using nano main.cf, and over here I will change, or let's say I will add a couple of things first. So first things first, I will check if I have smtpd recipient. No. So I was searching for a line called smtpd underscore recipient underscore restrictions. So since it doesn't exist, I will create one. By the way, I have already prepared one file with all of these commands, so I will just copy paste them here to save time. Paste, and I will explain what these things mean later on, but for now just follow my lead and copy paste these things here. Second thing which I'm going to paste is going to be from here, from the smtpd hello required to the hello access. So again, copying, pasting, and yes, so this is for now. And one last thing which I want to take care of is, let me see, IPv6. Okay, so sometimes IPv6 can be a problem, and if you have IPv6 enabled inside Postfix, we're going to disable it and tell Postfix to use IPv4 by default. So we're going to do this in another location. No, actually we're going to do it in this in this file, sorry. So let's see first, inet protocols So the file isn't defined, the command isn't defined, so let's add it. I'm going to add it above this one, inet protocols equals IPv4. So now we're telling Postfix to explicitly use IPv4 as the protocol. If anyone doesn't know what IPv4 is or IPv6 is, post a question, send me an email, and I will do my best to explain, and I can even make a video to explain some differences between them. But now let's move on. Next thing that we need to change is the Maildir format. So we need to tell Postfix to use the Maildir format as the default mailbox type. Also, I will explain what this is a bit later, but for now let's just add this here. So home underscore mailbox equals maildir slash, and it's important to put the slash here, and mailbox command equals and then empty. Just leave it like this. Mailbox. Okay, yeah, should be correct. Control X, Y, enter. So we save this, and now we are going to configure a couple of things here. First thing, we need to okay, let's create one extra file. So with your favorite text editor, create this file, nano etc postfix hello access. I'm writing this so in case you're not inside the etc postfix folder, you know where to create it. I could just create it here because I am already located in this folder. As you can see, I'm already inside etc postfix, but so I could just say nano hello access and it will be created inside here. But for those of you who like to copy paste commands from your home folder, let's do it like this: etc postfix hello access, and inside here I will create my domain name, reject, and then a message. What kind of message to put? You are not who you say you are, get lost. And then again, mail.salcohd.com, reject, and then I'm just gonna copy paste this message here because it's easier. Whoops, not this, definitely. Mail.salcohd.com, reject. You are not who you say you are, get lost. Now this probably doesn't make a lot of sense at the moment, but I will now go and start explaining exactly what we did in the previous file. So let's go to the main.cf and let me start explaining these things a bit. So moving down to where we started adding stuff. Okay, let's start from here. Home mailbox and mailbox command, right? With Postfix, you have two options when it comes to mailbox format. So basically how Postfix will store emails on your system, right? Now, two different types or formats are Maildir, which is one that we are using, and mbox, or how we are calling it, mailbox. So mbox is the official name, but we are pronouncing it mailbox, right? Now the differences are how these two mailbox mail formats are storing emails on your mail server. Maildir basically goes and separates every email into a separate file. So every email that you have will be inside one file. So if you have 1000 emails, you're going to have 1000 files, right? Something like that. Mbox, or mailbox, however you want to call it, stores emails, all emails in one big file. So if you have 1000 emails inside your inbox, you're gonna have one file with all of those 1000 emails inside there, right? Now the differences are, mailbox or mbox is an older format. It's prone to email corruption. It has a lot of problems with network file systems. It has a lot of issues with file locking, because every time you send and receive an email or change it or whatever, mbox locks the file, and then you get a lot of issues over time. It doesn't work with Courier IMAP POP3 server. The pros are, whenever you are editing your mailbox, when you append a new email, it's appended much faster than with Maildir, and searching for text inside your whole mailbox is much faster, because it's much easier to search one single file than 1000 little files. Now let's move to Maildir. Pros are, this is a newer format. It has a lot of improvements over mbox. It has better duplicates control and expiration times. It's faster when working with a lot of messages. Now, faster, this is something, let's say, from the eyes of the beholder, because depending on what you do, it's going to be faster, depending on your file system, depending on your hardware, etc., etc. It works better with NFS. It doesn't have file locking. Emails are stored in, as I said before, as unique files inside temp folders. The cons are, some file systems cannot handle large amounts of files very well. So this means if you have 1000 files, and if you're searching for something inside 1000 files at the same time, then you can probably imagine that the IOPS on that hard drive are going to be very, very high. And searching for text is also slow. This is what I just mentioned. So, but just to clarify, mbox is the default format inside Postfix. That's why we had to change it. And it's better suited for shared large mail servers. Why? Well, just to quickly explain it, it's sometimes easier for Systa admins to move a couple of large files than hundreds of thousands of small files. From that perspective, also from the backups, from the point of view of when you are backing up stuff, etc., etc. Maildir format, which we are using, is better suited for smaller companies or individuals with less emails. Now, it all depends on your setup. It all depends on the configuration that you are making. So the whole package. So don't take my word for it. You need to study. You need to analyze and choose which format is better for you. A lot of people are using both of these, and I don't think that anyone is right. We all have our different preferences, so you need to decide which one we are choosing. Maildir. Now I'm choosing Maildir, so we're going to be using Maildir. So I hope that I didn't confuse you too much, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Moving on. So these two commands are all part of this thing that we were talking about before, the type of mailboxes that we're going to be using. So this is how we said to the Postfix system that we're going to be using Maildir. Over here, we are starting with the SMTPD recipient restrictions. SMTPD recipient restrictions are basically there to restrict who can send emails to external email servers. First line says, let's begin the restriction. Second line says to allow people who have simple authentication and security layer, and then if they are authenticated, they can send to any destination. And then this line, the last line in these rules here, is to reject email if none of the above conditions have been met. Okay, hope this makes sense. Now, moving on to the second part of the additions to our main.cf file. This line, the first one, smtpd hello required, says that people or programs who are trying to send emails need to identify themselves in order to send email using the hello or hello command. This one, the second line, starts the second line of restrictions, just like this one. Now we have this one. This line says to permit my networks. Basically, we have a line called my networks up here, and over here we specified which networks are ours, which networks belong to us. Second line, or the third line, it will accept any hostname if the client is authenticated using the SASL, so the simple authentication and security layer. The next line, reject invalid hello hostname. So if the syntax of the hostname, of the hello hostname, is invalid, it's going to be rejected. Next line, reject non-fully qualified hello hostname, means that if a client comes with a hostname called salcohd instead of salcohd.com, I'm just giving an example. Let's say instead of google.com or gmail.com, someone comes into my server and says, I come from Gmail instead of gmail.com, then my server will reject that sender. And next line says reject unknown hello hostname. So if a client comes and the client comes with a hostname called I don't know, myfancydomain.com, and if that domain doesn't really exist, so it's fake, it doesn't have a DNS-A or an MX record, then it's going to be rejected, because if it doesn't exist, it's probably fake, it's probably a spammer. And the last line will basically block people that are claiming to be coming from my domain name. So I have added this line here, and I have specified this file here, hello access. Inside this hello access file, I added, as you saw before, I added 2 lines. One is from salcohd.com and second one was from mail.salcohd.com. If someone comes from these 2 domains, they will be rejected. Why? Well, a lot of spammers try to hello with your own domain name. So Postfix doesn't really check if they're lying or not, and this usually works, so they can spam you. But since we have already permitted my networks here, anyone sending the email from my domain will be accepted, and anyone using just my host name will be denied. So there's that. Let's check that file again. So as you can see, if a spammer tries to pretend that he has my domain name as a host name, then he will be rejected, and this will be the message that they will receive. You're not who you say you are, get lost. Okay, that was a lot of talking. So we need to put one more command here, post map etc postfix hello access. So this is how we are telling Postfix to map that file, and now we are going to restart Postfix, etc postfix etc init.d postfix restart, and Postfix has been restarted. So we are let's say here, 25% done. Now we're moving to Dovecot, and then after that Roundcube and SpamAssassin. So let's test if our mail server works. So how to do this without actually using an email client like Outlook or something like this? Well, it's very easy. You have to install Telnet. How to install Telnet? apt-get install Telnet. I already have it installed, so it's going to say that it's already installed. But after you guys install it, type telnet localhost port 25. So telnet localhost 25. Telnet space localhost space 25. Press enter, and you are basically connected to your SMTP server now. You're connected to Postfix, as you can see. It says 220 Serenity ESMT Postfix. Now let's identify ourselves to the email server. So type EHLO, so it's like hello, but characters are swapped. salcohd.com. You can type your domain name, which you have written before when you were configuring the name server. Okay, the server responds, telling you what kind of features it offers. And now, after we have done this, let's type this: mail from, and I'm going to say mail from Salco, and I have an OK response, 250 OK, rcpt2, and then I'm going to type my email address. Let's say salcohd.business@gmail.com. You can type your Gmail email address or whatever you have, whichever email you are using. Press enter. Okay, now I'm going to say data. Press enter, and it says and data with a dot. So this is basically how an email client communicates with the email server. Now I'm going to say subject testing my Postfix server, enter, and I'm going to type the actual body of the email. Hello, this is just a test. If I don't put a dot inside an empty line, the Postfix mail server will not know it has to send the email. And if you want to finish this email, just type a dot into an empty line, and it's going to say that it has queued the mail as 26 something something something. This is my queue string, and now email should be sent. If you check your email, you should now have an email. Probably it's going to be in spam since you didn't configure your email server completely, but check it anyway. And if you go to Gmail, if you have a Gmail address or Yahoo or whatever, go to spam and see. You're going to see that you have now sent an email from your own mail server, and it works. Now I'm going to type quit, and I have exited the Telnet session with my Postfix email server. Pretty cool, right? It works. So our Postfix actually works now. So we can send emails. We can theoretically receive emails if we forward the domain to point to our email server, if we set up the MX records, and if we open the ports on our router to point to the actual Raspberry machine, it will work. It will work. But before we go and do all these things, or you do these things, we are going to configure other things like Dovecot. Dovecot is the IMAP server, if you remember. We were talking about it at the beginning of this video, so this is what we're going to do now, the Dovecot part. So in my file here, as you can see, I have prepared a couple of commands which I need to enter here in order to create the Maildir file structure. And let me just quickly explain what this is. I have talked about this before, so we are going to use the Maildir format and not the mbox or mailbox format for our emails. Maildir basically stores all your emails in these folders and it stores them as files. Each email is a single file. If you have 1,000 emails, you're gonna have 1,000 different files. Mbox stores everything in a single large file, right? So there's a difference. Now, we are going to store these emails inside each and every user's home folder. So if I go to home pi, I'm going to have a folder inside here called Maildir. First, I'm going to create a template inside the etc skeleton folder, etc skel, so that whenever a new user is created on the system, all of this is then automatically copied to that user. So let me just copy and paste this so that it's created. Paste. Oh, right. I forgot to install something. So before we do this, we need to, of course, install a couple of things. apt-get install dovecot-common dovecot-imapd. Now dovecot will be installed on our server and I will have this little command which then creates these folders for me. Okay, dovecot has been almost installed. In case you forgot or don't know what dovecot is an IMAP and POP3 server. Its primary purpose is to take emails from the Postfix server and make them available for our email clients like Outlook or Thunderbird or Mac Mail or whatever you're using. So whenever we are connecting to the server, to the email server, we are going to be connecting directly to the Dovecot and not to the Postfix when we are retrieving emails. Okay, so the Dovecot has been installed and now I can use this command here, which I copied, and I'm going to paste it here. Here it goes. As you can see now, I haven't received any errors. If I were to create a new user now, it would be automatically copied to his folder, to his home folder. This user would have now the Maildir folder with all these folders inside of it. So this is basically done so we don't have to create all these folders every time we create a new user. I hope this makes sense. So since we have done this for every other user, we could actually do this now for our user, because our user has been created prior to creating this folder structure, so we're going to have to do this by hand. Luckily, this is nothing special to do, so we're just going to copy it and copy it from the etc skel folder and just paste it here. So cp -r cp-r etc skel maildir home pi, and it's been copied. As you can see now, I have the Maildir folder. Now let's change the ownership and let's change the permissions. Change ownership recursively pi home pi Maildir, and change permissions recursively to 700 home pi Maildir, and that's it. We have changed the ownership from root to pi, so that whenever user pi wants to make any change inside the folder, it will not receive any errors, because before the owner was root and pi wouldn't have sufficient permissions to add or remove anything from that folder. Okay, so let's now configure Postfix so that it will be able to use Dovecot for SASL authentication. Let's open etc postfix main.cf and let's add a couple of lines. So let's go to the bottom and add. Let me see if I maybe have these lines prepared in my file. Yes, I have them. So I can just copy and paste them. Paste. Okay. Now I'm going to close this, Control X, Y, Enter, and I'm going to open etc dovecot-conf.d 10-master.conf, and let's see service out. Let me see if I have this line here. I have it. Excellent. I'm searching for Unix listener. var spool postfix private. Okay, here it is. Here is the postfix SMTP authentication inside here. So I'm just going to uncomment this so that mode 666. I'm just going to add a user here. User postfix group postfix, sorry, postfix, and group and user should be with the equal sign. Okay, so locate where it says postfix SMTP auth, uncomment Unix listener, and then add user and group as a line, and they should be postfix. Excellent. Close this, Control X, Y, enter. Let's edit another file. Inside etc dovecot 10-auth.conf. And now I want to enable the plain text logins. Let's continue with the tutorial. So we're going to create a user called test mail with the password test1234. Now pay attention because we are going to encode the password and the username in base 64 encoding now, so that we can test the SASL connection properly. First thing, let's create the user. Add user, test mail. Password will be test1234, test1234. And the user will be now created, test user, confirm everything, press enter, and user has been now created. So now we are going to encrypt the username testmail and the password test1234 in base 64. This is so that we can test the SASL properly. We cannot test SASL using our username and password like this in plain text. We have to use base 64 encoded version of this text. It's still in plain text here, but you get the picture. Paste this. I will also paste this in the description of the video so you can have this. Copy this string, and now we are going to connect to our mail server, and we are going to try to authenticate like this. So telnet localhost port 25. Let's authenticate. ehlo salco.com. Excellent. Auth plain, and now we are copying and we are pasting the string which we copied before. Authentication successful. And now let's send the test mail. Mail from test mail data. Sorry, recipient to rcpt2. Okay, sorry for that. So make sure you spell everything correctly, because the mail server is expecting exactly what it's expecting. There are no mistakes here. Data, subject, testing, SASL with dovecot. Dot, and now the message should be sent. Quit. And yeah, that should be it. It works. If I was to try this with a different string. So let's say if I were to auth plain, and I'm just gonna paste this string here and just change it a bit. Authentication failed. So the string has to be correct. As you can see, you cannot just type stuff inside here and expect it to work. This is why we're using base64 encoding. And yeah. Okay, moving on. Okay, the next thing that we are going to do now is to separate incoming email, which is unauthenticated, from outgoing email, which is SASL or SASL authenticated. We're going to force Postfix to use port 465, which is using SMTP over SSL. And why we are separating ports? So theoretically, we can do all of this through port 25 because the technology permits it. It allows us to connect insecurely via port 25, and then it allows to, using the start TLS protocol, it allows us to then switch to an encrypted connection on that same port. But the problem is, if you connect at first via an unencrypted connection, you could, by accident, if your client is incorrectly configured, you could submit your password, which is just base64 encrypted. You could submit it via an unsecure connection, and someone could theoretically intercept it, decrypt it, and have access to your email, and that is a big no-no. So that's why we're going to tell Postfix to listen by default on port 465 for SASL authenticated connections. And how to do this? Well, it's very simple. Open the etc postfix master.cf file, find, using Control W, SMTPS line, uncomment it, uncomment line one line below it, and also the third line below. And now we're going to add one extra line here. So the first two lines are telling Postfix to listen and to stay open on port 465, and the last line that we're going to be adding, just a second, paste. Okay, Postfix doesn't accept messages from unauthenticated users on port 465. So if the user is SSL authenticated, then it will permit the connection, otherwise it will reject everything else. Excellent. Control X, Y, enter, and let's restart Postfix. etc init.d postfix restart. Postfix has been now restarted. Postfix is configured. Now we are moving on to IMAP, so Dovecot, right? Let's see if Dovecot works properly. Let's connect via telnet. Telnet localhost port 143. Okay, we are connected. So it says Dovecot ready, right? Good. Now we're going to use the command a login test mail and test 1 2 3 4. You remember this was the username and the password that we created before, and you see that user is logged in. So A, logged in, B, select inbox. This is how your email client is actually communicating with Dovecot. These are the commands that it sends to the server. It says okay, this is inside here, and now C, log out. And now we have been disconnected. So Dovecot works. What we need to do now is add TLS support inside Dovecot. How to do this? Well, edit etc dovecot-conf.d 10-master.conf and find where it says service service imap login. Oh, here it is. And let's uncomment port 143 and let's uncomment port 993 and SSL. So now it should look like this. We're uncommenting port 443 and port 993 with SSL. Control X, Y, enter. And now let's edit another line, another file, 10-ssl.conf. So etc dovecot-common.d 10-ssl.conf. Inside here, we're going to change a couple of things. SSL is by default disabled, so we're going to enable it. So we're going to change it to yes. SSL protocols, we're going to uncomment this line and add also SSL version 3, like this. Excellent. Control X, Y, enter. And now we are going to generate some self-signed certificates for Dovecot, so that when we are connecting with an email client, the server can offer a self-signed certificate. cd user share Dovecot, and let's run the mk-cert script. Okay, so I have run the script already, but let me just delete these files so you can see the script in action. rm etc dovecot.pem, like this. And if I'm running the script, rm etc dovecot private dovecot.pem. Okay, as you can see, the script now created the PEM file, which is basically, PEM file contains certificates inside of it. So if I open this file via dovecot private dovecot.pem, if I open it, you will see that it contains a certificate here, a private key. So this is how it looks like in a text editor. You guys shouldn't have to delete the two files that I have deleted, because you probably don't have them. So you can just run the script like this and it should do the trick. So let's restart Dovecot. etc init.d dovecot restart. And now let's see how it works. Let's connect to the IMAP server. So Dovecot, as I mentioned, let's connect to our IMAP server over SSL. We are going to use the OpenSSL client because Telnet cannot connect using a secure connection like we are doing here. How to do this? Type OpenSSL s_client -connect localhost port 993. So press enter. As you can see, we have a whole bunch of text outputs. We see the certificate, we see the protocol, we see the master key, etc., etc. And the thing which is important for us, it is here, Dovecot ready. So now we can log in like this. A login, test mail, test 1 2 3 4. Remember, this is the username and password we created before. Logged in. Excellent. So it works. B log out. This means that we can use our email client, for example Outlook or Thunderbird or Mac Mail, to connect to our server, and it will work. So we are pretty much finished with Dovecot. To install Roundcube, go to the official website, so roundcube.net, and inside the download section, you will find a couple of different packages. We are going to download the complete package, which has all of the resources which are necessary to run, so all the dependencies. So copy the link address. I've already prepared a file here with the link, so I'm going to copy this and then use it inside my console to download using wget. You remember we have installed nginx before. The root folder for all the websites is inside here, or www.html. So if I check inside here, you will see that I have already downloaded Roundcube Mail. How to download it? Well, wget, paste and press enter, and Roundcube Mail will be downloaded here. Now let's extract it. tar xvf Roundcube Mail, enter, and as you can see, it has been extracted inside a folder called Roundcube Mail-1.2.1. Now let's rename this folder to something called webmail or mail. If we enter this folder, mail, you will see that we have a folder called installer inside there. Now, before we run this installer, we need to create a database where Roundcube will store its configuration. As you know, we have already installed MySQL, so let me just log in. I hope you remember your password. Okay, I remember mine. Okay, let's check which databases we have on our system. Show databases. Now we are going to create a separate database and a separate user for Roundcube because of security, of course. So how to do this? Very simple. Create database Roundcube mail, grant all privileges on Roundcube mail dot star 2. Let's say user is going to be called Roundcube at localhost identified by, and then you have to type password. I'm going to select, let's say, test12334. I hope you make a more secure password. Flush privileges. Okay, that's it for the MySQL part. We have created a user, a database, and gave access to this user to this database. So let's exit MySQL. And now we can proceed with the installer. How to install? Well, very simple. Let's type the IP address of our machine here. You can do this from a separate computer. I'm doing it from this one, so we can all watch. So the IP address of this PC is the IP address of this server is 10.69.69.62. So 10.69.69.62, and if you remember, I created a subfolder called, I renamed the Roundcube folder to mail. So if I open it now, it's going to say configuration error. Of course, it's not configured, but as you remember, there was a folder called installer inside there, and now we're going to open it. We have some checks here which are being done, so we don't need all of these things. We don't need LDAP, we don't need SQLite, we don't need Oracle. We need everything that we need, we already have. So let's just proceed. Next. Now we can give the product name here. Basically this will be the title of your website when you open it. You have a whole bunch of settings here that you can configure, but for now the only thing which is important for us is this one, the database name. So it's the database name is the Roundcube mail one we selected. The user is Roundcube, and the password is, if you remember, test1234. you probably chose another one, so I think this is it. And as you can see, we have the IMAP settings. The port is 143. We have the SMTP server settings. The port is 25. And the language, if you choose, you can select another language. I will leave it at the default settings. So let's see if we can continue here. Create config. I might have to give bigger permissions on the folder, but let's just check. Okay, copy or download the following configuration and save it as config.inc.php. Let's just select everything here. We're selecting everything and copy. Now let's go inside our Roundcube folder and create a file called config.inc.php. I think this was the name. Paste. Let's double check. config.inc.php. Oh yeah, I have to save it inside the config folder, so not here. Let's enter the config folder and do it here. Paste, Control X, Y, enter. And now let's continue. So check if directories are writable. So we need to give permissions to the temp and logs folder because currently they are not writable. Well, change ownership command, we have to give the user which is used by Nginx. So the user is called www.data and also the group www.data to the folder logs and the same to the folder temp, and let's change the file permissions to 755 to logs and 755 to temp, and now it should be okay. Yep, so as you can see, everything is green now. Let's initialize the database. Okay, I've pressed it twice and now I received an error, but the database should be initialized. Let's check. Yes. So this is pretty much it. We can test the SMTP. Let's see if it works. I'm going to test it on my salcohd.business@gmail.com. Sorry, this will be the recipient. Sender will be, let's say, pi@salcohd.com. It worked. Let's test SMTP. Let's test IMAP if it works. Username, let's say username will be test mail because we still have this user, and password test1234. Let's check if it's able to log in. Yep. Excellent. Now we have configured Roundcube to run off of port 143. Later we're going to change this to 993, so we're going to use IMAP S, the secure version of IMAP, but this is just to test if everything works okay. Now it says here, after completing the installation and the final test, please remove the whole folder, install folder. So we are going to do this and make sure that the enable installer option in config inc php is disabled. So we're going to do also this one. Now let's go back to the mail folder, press enter, to see if our webmail now works. Okay, so the username page is loading. Username was testmail, test1234. Excellent, we now have webmail. Let's try to send something. Compose. User is, let's say, salco.hd.bizin@gmail.com. Subject testing Roundcube. Testing, yay. Sent. Message has been sent. Of course, I cannot receive emails yet because I have to configure my router to allow the domain to allow the public access to my Raspberry Pi. So basically I would need to forward all these ports to 2025, 143, 993, 465. I would have to forward them here to this local IP address, but we are going to do this later. I will show you how to do it. So basically we are done with Roundcube. Now let's move on to SpamAssassin so we don't get too much spam. Okay, time to start fighting spam. So we're going to install SpamAssassin, but before we do that, I just need you to understand that SpamAssassin will not automatically move your emails, which are spam, to a folder called spam, for example, but rather it will just mark them as spam. So it will add a header inside your emails, which have been, let's say, marked as spam. So the header will be x-spam-flag yes. So if that header exists in an email, then basically SpamAssassin has marked that email as spam. Now what you do with this mail is another thing. So SpamAssassin will just mark them as spam, and then after this, in the next step, we're going to install a plugin called Sieve, and using Dovecot's local mail transfer protocol, or LMTP, we are going to move those messages to the correct locations using Sieve rules. So now that that's out of the way, let's install SpamAssassin. apt-get install SpamAssassin. Yes. SpamAssassin will be downloaded now, and after this we are going to do some configuration. So after the installation of SpamAssassin finishes, let's open this file located in etc SpamAssassin, and the file name is local.cf. Use your favorite text editor and open it. Now we're going to uncomment a couple of things. First thing, we need to uncomment this rewrite header part. This will add spam to the subject header of spam emails, the ones which have been analyzed by SpamAssassin and determined that they are spam. The spam score is sufficient. Next, we're going to uncomment this one here and change it to 0. So reports safe, we need to change it to 0. So save spam messages as an attachment instead of modifying the original message. So we are going to change this to 0. Next thing is the required score. So by default the required score is 5, which is pretty high. We're going to change it for now to 2. This basically will produce some false positives. If you don't know what a false positive is, it's basically a mail that was marked as spam, but in reality it's not spam. But at least like this we can see that the SpamAssassin works, and we can then go back and change it to 5 or whichever value you prefer later on when we determine that SpamAssassin works. Now we're going to use Bayesian filters. The automatic learning part, we're going to enable it so that SpamAssassin can auto-learn. Control X, Y, enter. Let's now edit etc default SpamAssassin, and here where it says enabled 0, we're going to enable it by switching this to 1, Control X, Y. And now let's start SpamAssassin, etc init.d SpamAssassin start. SpamAssassin has been successfully started. Excellent. If we check the process, SpamAssassin should be now amongst, see here, spamd, and this is SpamAssassin. Okay, let's see. Let's increase the size of this terminal. So over here you should see a process called spamd. I saw it for a second over there, but it's here and we're going to see it later in action. Okay, continue. Now that SpamAssassin is running, we need to instruct Postfix to use it when it receives email. So how to do this? Let's edit Postfix master.cf file, and right here under the SMTP line we're going to append something which I have already prepared in advance. Okay, so first thing that we're going to add is this one. So copy, and I'm going to paste it inside here. Now make sure you use the tab key and move this one a bit further. If you receive an error, then revert back and use a space. So let's try first with the tab key, and then we're going to see if that fails. We're going to revert back just with a space. Also, we need to copy this line here, which will basically instruct Postfix after SpamAssassin finishes with the analysis to return the email back to Postfix. The output. So we're going to copy this and paste it to the bottom of our main.cf file. So it should look something like this. Control X, Y, enter, and let's restart Postfix. etc init.d postfix restart. Okay, no errors. Postfix is now officially using SpamAssassin for spam processing. Excellent. If we go inside logs, there should be a log called mail log. Okay, and now we can see that spamd is running. Server successfully spawned child process. So this means that spam filtering should now work. Great. Now SpamAssassin needs to be trained. Okay, so if I go back to my home folder, home.py, and if I entered my Maildir, I should have a folder called spam, right? So spam should be now located inside there when it's determined that it's spam. As you can see that inside spam subfolder, yeah, I have also these three folders which are part of the main structure: current, new, and temporary. So normal mail should go inside these folders: current, new, and temporary, and spam email should go inside the subfolder called spam, and then it should be inside here. Okay, so in SpamAssassin calls spam of course, and normal mail is called ham. So when we are training SpamAssassin, you will see two switches. One is called ham and one is called spam. So ham is normal email, spam is spam email, ham is normal email. How to learn? Well, how to teach SpamAssassin? It's pretty easy. There is a command called sa learn, and we activate it like this. No sync. If we want to analyze ham or normal email, we're going to go inside the home folder of the user which we want to analyze, for example home pi maildir, and then inside here we're going to say that this user, for this user we're going to check these two folders, current and new. And now this program will analyze all the emails which are inside there. There isn't any emails there, there aren't any emails there, but you get the picture. If I were to scan for spam, I would go like this. I say learn, no sync, spam, and then home by maildir.spam, and then inside here I would go and analyze current and new. So you get the picture. Spam emails are stored inside the .spam subfolder, and normal or ham emails are stored inside the Maildir's top folders. And now if the final step that I need to do is basically to sync the database. After the analysis has been completed, I need to tell the program to sync the database with the database of the analyzed, with the database which has been created when I analyze the emails, and that's it. Now, as you know, this tutorial is based on one of the tutorials from Sam Hobbs, so he has created a nice little script which can do this automatically. So all you would need to do is add this script inside cron tab, and you would configure it to run daily. So I will now show you how you can use this script and how you can configure it to run automatically every day. So let's do that now. So here's Sam's script. I have just modified the home folder to reflect my configuration. So home pi, you can change this to your user, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to save it inside etc cron.daily SpamAssassin learn, something like this. The name is custom, so you can choose your own name. Paste. So make sure you change your folder to reflect your configuration, and you will need to do this for every user that you want his mail to be analyzed by SpamAssassin. So SpamAssassin to learn, Control X, Y, enter. Now let's make the script executable. Change permissions plus X etc cron.daily SpamAssassin learn. Okay, now the script is executable, and this is it. The script will be run every day, and it will teach SpamAssassin regarding your spam or ham. Now let's configure automatic sorting inside spam folder. So let's mark emails as spam automatically, and then do something with them. SpamAssassin, as you know, only marks them and adds the header, but if we want to do something with them, then we need to install something else, a plugin called Sieve. So we're going to use Dovecot's local mail transfer protocol, or LMTP. We need to install it and we need to configure it. So this is the final step of this tutorial. In a couple of minutes you're going to be finished, and then you can enjoy your fully functional mail server. Let's install it. apt-get install dovecot LMTP. Okay, installation has finished. Now let's edit Dovecot and tell it to use the LMTPD as well. etc dovecot.conf. Find the protocols. Find the protocols part. Protocols equals imapd. Protocols. So I'm guessing it doesn't exist, so we're going to have to add this to the end of the file. Protocols equals imapd LMTP. Okay, add this to the end of the file. Control X, Y, enter. Now let's edit this file, etc dovecot-conf.d20-lmtp.conf. And now we're going to add this line called lmtp underscore save underscore to underscore detail underscore mailbox equals yes. So lmtp underscore save underscore to underscore detail underscore mailbox equals yes. Control X, enter. Okay, so we have basically enabled the address extensions plugin, and this means that if you were to send an email to, for example, my email is salko@salkohd.com, for example. Now if I were to send an email, for example, computer store plus salkohd.com, everything that would be received to this email would be automatically stored inside the subfolder called computer store. For example, let's say that you are adding yourself to a mailing list and you want all the emails from that mailing list to automatically go to a subfolder called computer store, or whatever the mailing list is. Then you would just append this. For example, let's say that you are browsing on Reddit, and on Reddit you have registered yourself as reddit.plus salko@salkohd.com. Now all the emails that you would be receiving from Reddit would go automatically inside this subfolder, if of course Reddit allows this kind of email address to be submitted. Okay, moving on. We need to change the LMTP protocol block to look like this. So currently the protocol LMTP is commented out, so this mail plugins has been commented out. We are going to add Sieve here, and also one other line, postmaster address equals postmaster@salkohd.com. So postmaster is basically an email address which is required for this to work. If you don't know what a postmaster address is, Google it. It's something which has been around since the creation of email servers. And to quickly explain it, okay, so the postmaster address is basically an address that others will see when mail delivery failed, so that they can contact you on eventual problems on your end. Postmaster should be formatted like this: postmaster at yourdomainname.com. So there's that. Now let's continue, Control X, and let's now edit the etc dovecot-conf.d 10-master.conf. Let's search for service LMTP. Here it is, and let's change it to look like this: var spool postfix private dovecot LMTP mode will be 666. We need to uncomment this one, and we're going to add one other closing of the curly brackets here, and actually no, we already have it here, so yeah, we're just going to close. No, since we have added one, we of course need to add another one. Okay, Control X, Y, enter. Now let's edit this file, etc dovecot-conf.d 10-auth.conf, and find auth username. Here it is, auth username format, auth username format. Here it is. Let's uncomment it, and it should be with ln instead of lu. Control X, Y, enter. Now let's edit the etc postfix main.cf. Let's search for that mailbox command that we added. If you remember, we're going to comment it out, and now we're going to add another line here: mailbox transport equals LMTP Unix private dovecot -LMTP. So mailbox underscore transport LMTP Unix private dovecot. Okay, Control X. We save it. Next thing we need to do is configure the Sieve roles. So Sieve should be already installed. Let's check apt-get install dovecot Sieve. Should be already installed, but let's just check. Oh, it wasn't. Well, let's install it. Okay, so the installation failed. Let's check why. Okay, dovecot Sieve should be now installed. Also, guys, make sure to copy paste the text instead of writing it by hand, because I've noticed that I've made a couple of mistakes by now. So whenever you see me changing something inside the config files, for example over here inside the dovecot 10-master.conf, where I was editing the LMTP service part, copy paste it. Don't try to write it, because it's easy to make a mistake and then you receive errors. So now that Sieve has been installed, we need to configure a couple of roles. First things first, let's change one parameter inside etc dovecot-conf.d 90-sieve.conf. Recipient delimiter. Here it is. We're going to uncomment it and have it like this. Now let's restart. etc init.d postfix start, or let's reload it, and also let's reload dovecot. Okay, so let's go and create a Sieve script which will move spam, which has a header called x-spam-flag, and we're going to move it inside the spam folder. How to do this? Well, this is, like I said before, per user. So let's go to the user pi inside the Maildir folder, and sorry, not inside the Maildir folder. Let's go into the user pi and let's create a file called .dovecot.sieve. Now I have prepared a file here. I will just copy paste this. You will also have this inside my description, so you can just copy paste everything from here. Let's paste this file here, and this rule basically says if there is a header inside an email which is called like this, then move the email inside the folder spam and then stop. So Control XY, let's save this. And change the ownership of the file to the actual user which will be running here. So if I check, you see the file that I have just created, the one called .dovecot.sieve. This one, it's owned by root, so we need to change it so that the user pi is the owner. So if I check again, now user pi owns this file and it has permissions to access it. How to test if this thing works now? Well, it's simple. There is a string which is used for testing spam. So it's called gtube, or generic trigger for unsolicited bulk email, and it's basically a string of characters. If you Google gtube spam email, you can find this string. So I'm going to connect via telnet to, let's say, localhost port 25, and I'm going to introduce myself by saying hello. Now, mail from, let's say, test@salcohd.com. Recipient will be user pi. Data. Subject. Let's test spam filters. And now let's actually find this string. Here's the string. Standard gtube test, and I'm going to paste it inside here, and I'm going to send it. So the mail has been queued, should be sent. Let's see what happened. It should be inside the spam folder. So let's go inside Maildir. As you know, there is a subfolder called spam, right? And let's see inside new, and here we go. We have one spam email inside here. If I was to open my webmail, and log in as user pi. Let me just change my password. Oh, actually it worked. If I checked the spam folder, so spam folder, I will include it as well. Okay, so you need to subscribe to this folder. Let's go back to Roundcube. So let's check spam. So you see I have one new message inside spam. Let's open it. By the way, this works much faster if you are accessing this from another machine and not directly from the Pi, because here I'm running the X interface. And so remember, let's test spam filters from me, and it's spam. So voila. Oh, sorry for that. Voila. Spam works. I was waving my hands there like a, you know, for dramatic effect. Okay, great. It works. Last thing we need to do is I need to show you how to configure your email clients if you will not be using your webmail as a mail client. If you want to, for example, use Outlook, I will now show you how you can configure Outlook, and let's wrap things up. Let's remove a couple of things from here so we make the system a bit safer. Okay, see you in a bit. Before I start explaining how to configure Outlook, let me just quickly show you, as I promised before, which ports need to be forwarded in order for your Raspberry Pi to be accessible from the outside world. So this is my router. It's a simple router, but I have uploaded a custom firmware, so it's running OpenVRT. And as you can see, these are the ports which you should forward. So 25 for Postfix, so that Postfix can receive emails from the outside world and also send them to other email servers through port 25. Port 465. Now this one is for SMTPS. This one is for your submission. So when you are sending emails from your client like Outlook or Thunderbird or MacMail or your mobile phone, you should use this port. So this is a secure port, and the connection between your email client and your email server is encrypted. No one can intercept your password theoretically. Port 993, this one is for IMAP-S. Basically, it's for a secure version of IMAP. When you are receiving emails from IMAP, you should be connecting via this port. It's an encrypted port, it's an encrypted connection. So this one is also for IMAP. You remember we configured Nginx in the previous video. So for our web server, for our websites, you should forward port 80. And also, when I will be making my next videos, I will be configuring PyDio for the Dropbox replacement. It will also be using the port 80 because we're going to be accessing it via the web server, via Nginx. And also FTP, if you require FTP, then it's a standard port 21. So you could also forward this port. Every router is different. There are thousands and thousands of different routers, so I cannot go and explain everyone specifically for some brand. But if you guys need some help, you can send me a screenshot of your router and I can then assist you if I have the time to give you a hint where you need to go. But generally every router has something called port forwarding, so you can go there and then just select the local IP, and the port basically is the internal port and the external port. So in our case, they are going to be the same. The external port and the internal port are going to be the same for all of these things which you're configuring. So the only important thing for you to select is the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. Let me show you how I'm usually accessing Roundcube. If my domain was working, I could access it like with the whole domain name, but now I'm accessing it via the IP address because I haven't forwarded the domain officially. But as you can see, it's working much faster than with when I was accessing it from the Raspberry Pi itself. If you remember, I have also configured phpMyAdmin on this machine, and you can see phpMyAdmin is loading up much faster than locally on the Raspberry Pi itself. If I was to just access the website which is running here, the website would open, and yeah. Now let's try and configure Outlook. So Outlook is one of those email clients that a lot of people use. I like it as well. You guys might have Thunderbird or something like this, but I will show you how you can configure Outlook. So do you want to set up an Outlook to connect to an email account? Yes. Now select manual setup or additional server type, and then over here select POP or IMAP. Now of course you will fill in your name here. I will put Salco HD. Email address is, let's say, I'm going to configure it for my user called pi@salcohd.com. Over here I'm going to select an IMAP server, and if you have already forwarded your domain to your Raspberry Pi, then you can type your domain name here, but I'm going to just type the local IP address of my Raspberry Pi since I'm connecting from inside my network. If you were to connect from outside of network, you should type your external IP address here, 10.69.69.62. Now username and password should be correct. Now let's go into more settings here, and in the outgoing server select my outgoing server requires an authentication, and select use the same settings as my incoming email server. Over here, incoming server IMAP, select SSL, and it will be automatically changed to 993, and over here as well SSL, and change it to 465. If you remember, we modified it to use the port 465. Now press OK and next. Now it will tell you that you have a certificate here, because if you remember, we have generated a self-signed certificate. So it's saying that the target principal name is incorrect because this is a self-signed certificate, and you will always receive this notification, but of course we trust our certificate. Now it's trying to log in. It logged in. Now it's trying to send a test message. Test message has been sent successfully, and now our Outlook will open. As you can see, we have a test message from Outlook, and if you go to spam, we will see our spam message here. Remember, we have sent this code, we have sent this string which is used for automatic detection, and if you remember, we have configured our SpamAssassin to work like this, to analyze, and it works. Let's try sending an email to an external email address. For example, I have one email address, salcohd.business@gmail.com, testing my Raspberry Pi perfect email server. Hello. Sent. Let's see if the email will go through and the sent items. Yep, it has been sent. Now let me just test this email account here. I have configured it separately inside Internet Explorer, so I don't have to type my password when I'm showing this to you guys. So this was the first these were the messages that I was sending before, if you remember. This one was from Roundcube before. Now let's see when will this one arrive. Let me see if I typed the email correctly. salcohd.business@gmail.com should be correct. Let's check spam. Maybe it's inside spam, which is quite possible because I haven't configured my domain name correctly yet. Oh, okay, here it is. So it's been sent to spam because, of course, I haven't configured my domain name to point to my real IP address yet, but as you can see, you can still send messages and it works. This is what's important. So just to conclude, our email server works. This is how you configure Outlook to work with your email server, and as you can see, also Nginx works, phpMyAdmin works, SpamAssassin works, Sieve rules work, so yeah, pretty cool. So that was it. This was the second part of the Perfect Little Home Server series. Subscribe if you haven't, it means a lot to me. If you have any questions, post a comment and I'll do my best to answer you. You can also check out my Twitter account. I'm always on Twitter, so this is the easiest way to get in touch and ask me something. Part 3 will be coming soon, so we'll be configuring bind and pydio, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and have a good one. Peace.